Hello everyone, my name is Meghan LeVota and I offer wisdom, tools, and support for personality integration. And today I'm going to be reviewing the March book from the Typology Reading Challenge, which is the 16 Personality Types Descriptions by Linda Behrens and Dario Nardi. Now, quick note on the Typology Reading Challenge. I completely understand that right now it is potentially difficult to access books from Amazon right now due to everything that's happening. Yeah, I don't have the April book yet. It has not come in, so I'm actually going to be doing next month 8 Keys to Self-Leadership by Dario Nardi because I already have this one. This was supposed to be for May, but I'm kind of switching it around. So I will keep you posted on that for those of you who were wanting to participate. I just want to say that I really like this book. It is a very easy read. It's quite short. It really gives you the basics of what you need to know, especially if you're new to personality type. Perhaps my favorite thing about it is how at the beginning it kind of overviews what is personality, how you should think about personality, and then it gives you the sort of snapshot of each type. And what I'm going to be mostly going into today is each of the personality types in their own words. I thought that this was really cool, the way they did this in the book. Linda Behrens and Dario Nardi interviewed people of each of the personalities, and they sort of wrote these passages of like a self-portrait of each type kind of in their own words. And I think that especially if you are someone who perhaps you understand the definitions, but you have a hard time emotionally connecting with what it might feel like to be a certain personality type, reading these passages, it was a really easy and fulfilling read because, you know, it feels like you're listening to just a person talk about themselves. Maybe I'm a little biased as an ENFJ saying that it is easy read because, you know, it's easy for me to just sort of listen, sit back and hear people's stories, and I feel like I got to do that with this book. So I want to kind of go through each of the types and share just a quote from each of them to sort of, I guess, spotlight a couple things that might be common thoughts within each of the personality types, how it feels like to be them. But before I go into that, I just want to note that this book, when they talk about personality types, they're kind of combining psychological types, temperament, and social styles. So it talks about type as though there are these 16 universal type patterns. I personally really like the idea of thinking about it as a type pattern because it really fits with how I see things. And it also talks about how there is the developed self, the contextual self, and the true self. And all of these things impact how your personality might come off. So I like how they mentioned that you do have to consider the context and how you have developed. Also, another thing just to note is that there's also the reminder at the beginning that everyone can kind of do everything. This is one of my favorite disclaimers. Everyone can do everything, and when you are looking at the external behavior, you have to realize that this type pattern is actually this underlying mechanism that is underneath the behavior that you see. So just keeping in mind and having respect for the fact that you don't actually know other people's motivations. And although it can be easy to assume that you know based on the behavior, the 16 personality type patterns are not actually patterns of behavior. They are like, it's more of a cognitive pattern. It is actually here it talks about how personality can be seen as a living system. There's the pattern, there's the process, there's the structure, and there's the purpose, which is the overall holistic theme. So again, this is just a really good reminder, and I think that if you are new to type, or if you are wanting to introduce someone to type and have them understand these things in a quick yet reliable way, I would say that this book is very reliable. And it really, I think, because if you don't do the work at the beginning to really talk about what is a personality, then people kind of jump in and start reading the descriptions with all of these different assumptions about what a personality really is and how to read the behavior. Because when you don't have those disclaimers up front, and you read about these things, you might read something where it's like, this personality type has a tendency to act in this way. And if you don't understand how to take that information, then it can lead you to these really unfortunate assumptions up front that can inhibit your ability to understand personality type down the road. So now in the next portion of the video, I'm going to share an excerpt from each of the 16 types passages, and just sort of give you a little peek inside the brain of these other 16 personality types. Let me know in the comments if you relate to what I read about your personality type. And again, I'm going to link this book below if you'd like to read the full passage and the full descriptions and all of that. Definitely go check out that book for yourself and read the whole thing. So the first personality type here is the ESTP. The ESTP is called the promoter executor in this type system. So the first type that I'm going to go into is the ESTP, which is known as the promoter executor in this book. So what is it like to be an ESTP? Here is the quote. I like somebody with a little sizzle. The most important thing in relationships is absolute autonomy and independence. I admit I like to be in control, and yet I'm kind of easygoing in that I just want freedom. Freedom to me is leave me alone, let me do it. Anything that constrains me around that I don't like, I'll kind of rebel against. I just don't like to be told what to do or what to think. And although I know it's good for me, I don't like feedback either, but it takes a lot to rattle me. So the next type is the ISTP, which is known as the analyzer operator in this book. What's it like to be an ISTP? Quote, inside, I am continually reworking an issue. I'm constantly open to new directions, always tweaking and bringing in new information. I solve a problem by looking at all the angles, probably whatever side I need to. There is an answer. I just need to get to the best way to figure it out, to meet my objectives, and give it to the people how it is without annoying anyone. What I do has to make sense and have an impact. I cannot stand busy work. It has to be meaningful. Next up is the ESFP, which is known as the motivator presenter in this book. I believe that if there's a problem, until somebody actually does something about it, then it's all just talk. It's not real. If there's no real progress, then eventually I'm out of there. I like people to know that they have a real place in this world, that they could do something, that they can actually physically act, and that they will make a difference. Everybody is unique and has a contribution to society, and maybe they don't have a plan, but I feel great when I can help someone realize that they are special. Next up is the ISFP, which is known as the composer-producer in this book. I really enjoy listening to people, hearing their stories, and learning about them. I remember a lot of the details. I ask a lot of questions, and I like the challenge of recognizing where people are coming from and why they might be coming from that perspective. I love the give and take of conversations. I really feel thrilled and excited learning from the intellectual energy combined with the emotional energy. It gives me a real sense of that person. I like recognition. It's very important to get complimented soon after an accomplishment. If something goes unnoticed or unrewarded, it doesn't have the immediate impact that I want. Next up is the ESTJ, which is known as the implementer supervisor in this book. I think about what I have to do on the way to work or on the way home or the night before. It's very gratifying to work extremely hard and sacrifice in order to take care of people. I like when people appreciate that I have given of myself. It's satisfying to see something that was not working start working with tangible results. Once the structure is in place, then it fades into the background and allows the other relational elements to bloom. You've got to have that backbone and structure, or the rest of it will fall apart. Next up is the ISTJ, which is known as the planner inspector in this book. I can't stand when people don't care for others, who are irresponsible or rude, who shoot their mouth, go off without knowing what they're talking about, or who don't do what they're supposed to do and want something for nothing. I especially can't tolerate people who don't take other people's time or privacy into consideration. Next up is the ESFJ, which is known as the facilitator caretaker. When I have a problem, I bounce it off of people I respect, and I take into account how others involved will be affected. It can be difficult to take a hard line when people are going to be slighted, but sometimes I have to go through a lot of conflict, do what I must, and step on some toes. However, I don't like conflict. I follow through on my commitments and obligations, and I believe in honest relationships and honest communication. It's important to raise my kids to be good citizens, to be compassionate in their relationships, to work hard, and to stick with it through the hard times. Next up is the ISFJ, which is known as the protector supporter. It probably takes me longer than most people to do something because I am so thorough. But when I have learned a lot about what I do, I think I get the job done much faster and I can make difficult work look easy. I cannot stand people not doing their best job. I do what I say I'm going to do and I stick with it until it's done. I like a day when everything works really well, when I get a lot done and people respond positively and there's a lot of laughter. Next up is the ENTJ, which is known as the strategist mobilizer. Although I appear to dominate, when people get to know me, I really don't. I let them do their own thing. With people I judge as friendly or want to get to know, I can open up quickly, although I don't actually go out and do things to make others like me. I actually believe that you can do anything if you set your mind to it and are willing to pay the price. I will ask myself if I am willing to pay the price. Next up is the INTJ, which is the conceptualizer director. I like to go through anything I can think of before I act. The implications, what others have tried before and their effect, my options and their consequences, who to mobilize and in what time frame. All of the things that I've done have been self-taught by picking up on or asking myself good, clear, penetrating questions to expose and articulate the hidden structures that underlie the experience of living. Next up is the ENTP, which is known as the explorer inventor. When I meet people who have interesting ideas, talents, or projects, I want to get to know them and help them make whatever they want to do possibly much bigger, more successful, or more impactful than they had intended. I start aligning myself with them and building trust because I want to get invited in. When I look at things, I'm trying to figure out the system, looking beneath, behind, or above, somehow looking beyond the sensory data to figure out how it all works. Next up is the INTP, which is known as the designer theorizer in this book. Although sometimes, even when I know that we agree, people feel as though I'm trying to challenge them, which is frustrating because I'm just doing so out of excitement. I don't like sloppy thinking, waste, or redundancy, and I'm uncomfortable with sending out something that isn't as good as it can be, but it has to go out anyway. I like things that are thought through, and competence just sets me right off. I have very little tolerance or patience, especially if the person is above me or isn't really trying. Next up is the ENFJ, which is known as the envisioner mentor. I hate unresolved conflict. It makes me sick and can stay with me until it's resolved. And I hate it when people are demeaned or mistreated. My heart goes out to them, so I feel it's my responsibility to help, and I will fight on their behalf. I don't understand people who are insensitive to others' needs or issues or thoughts or feelings. Either I don't want these people in my life or I want to teach them how to care. It bugs me when people don't take time to understand each other. Next up is the INFJ, which is known as the foreseer developer. Connecting for me means to be able to intuitively ask questions of people and get them to go deeper into the things that they were talking about. Inspiring others, helping them find their purpose or meaning, being a different kind of leader from what's traditional, that's what's really gratifying. I respect most the people who are willing to come forth and be an individual, to make the world a better place or make a difference in a person's life. Next up is the ENFP, which is known as the discoverer advocate. I absolutely have to get a fulfilling job or I will get depressed. I want to use my talents, make a difference, and have autonomy. If not, I struggle to retain a sense of self and I feel like my spirit is dying. One way to tick me off is to either do something really unethical or question my integrity. I get very annoyed when people jump at me for not doing things their way, but I often don't defend myself because I fear losing control. I'd rather be in control when I talk to them about the situation. They don't know what effect that they're having on me, and it tears me up inside. And last but not least is the INFP, which is the harmonizer clarifier. I'm too private to push my values onto other people, but I am convinced that one ought to be congruent in their own life if they're going to expect congruence from others. In a sense, I hold other people to that standard, and I worry about my own incongruities, inconsistencies, and contradictions. I tend to form impressions right away about people, and most of the time I feel pretty good about my impressions, but sometimes I'm way off. At least if the people have good intentions, I can relax. So let me know, did you relate to the quote that I shared about your personality type? And was there anything surprising that I read about another personality type that helps you perhaps understand them better? Let me know in the comments. Also, if you're interested, I have released a membership group called Personality Typology for Self-Growth. The membership group, that is $33 a month, where I'm going to be hosting a sort of facilitated conversation / workshop in there once a month. There's going to be 4 extra videos from me discussing how to really use this information about personality typology and use it to become a better person and improve your relationships. The first workshop I'm doing is April 18th, which is all about surrendering the sort of somewhat tyrannical control that your dominant function can have over you sometimes. So we're going to be talking about surrender, and if you're interested in that, all of that is linked below. Thank you for bearing with me, as this is later than expected, although I tend to sort of do this to myself. I set these high standards and I decide that I want to do 1 book a week or 1 book a month, and you know, hopefully it's interesting to you guys. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day.